Well, howdy there, folks. How's it going today? I hope everyone's doing really good. Well, me and the mountain dogs are out in the shop here this morning, and just got done taking the clamps off the Lone Ranger here. What do you think, Oliver? And there's Big O over there. Hi, Otis. So everything lined up pretty good here. We still can see this little split in the back, which there really wasn't a lot I could do about it. And there is a little bit of rippling here and there. You know, it's just how it goes. Sometimes you can't get all that stuff out, but the back is intact and hooked to the guitar again, which is the main thing. Now, I did put a cleat across this big crack. You could see daylight right through it. Fixed all the loose braces. I actually removed pretty much all of them and glued them back into position. Same here on the top. Everything's good and solid. So the next thing we're going to do is I need to make a bridge for it because the bridge was broken. I did have like some of it, almost half of it, so that was good. It gave me the profile of the wings and also the thickness of the bridge, so I don't have to guess at it. One thing I am going to need to do is fill in these voids here where the bald ends of the strings pulled through the top. I'm just going to put some glue and sawdust in there and just reinforce those. And I did put a bridge pad in here, okay? Now, this guitar did not come with a bridge pad originally, and that's why the bald ends pulled up through the top and whatnot. So, I wanted to keep it as original as possible, but without that bridge pad in there, with all the damage that was going on, you really wouldn't even be able to string this guitar up with any sort of tension. You could just kind of wind some on there for looks. There's really not much to hold it there, so I did put a bridge pad in, and what we're going to do is, after I fill these in, I'll drill these out, just small. I'm not going to drill a great big hole, just enough to get some alignment here, and then I'll take a hand reamer, a tapered reamer, after I make the bridge, and we'll ream the holes through the bridge and through here. You can't just drill them out all one size because the bridge pins are tapered. You got to keep that in mind. So that's something that we'll be addressing here in a few. So I got a piece of African ebony, and that's what I'm going to use for the bridge here. Okay, so I do have some Indian rosewood. I have some ironwood, or otherwise known as lignum vitae. But this stuff, this is African ebony, like I said, Gabon ebony. And this really looked closer to what was originally there. I'm not saying that was ebony on there, but it could have been. I really don't know. It was some sort of hardwood because the inside didn't look like, spruce or pine or maple or anything like that. It was dark inside, so I'm thinking it could have been rosewood or ebony. I don't know, but this looked closer to me, and that's what we're going to use to make the bridge. And also, we're going to have to, put a saddle in there. I might just make a through saddle. I think, it may be easier. I'm not sure, honestly. I haven't got to that step yet, but it really doesn't matter at this point. So the first thing I need to do is get this cut to thickness, and then we'll work on, sculpting out the wings, and I'll get these filled in. We'll drill them out, and then we'll transfer everything over onto the new bridge, get that drilled out, so that way when we put the bridge on, we can align everything. Now, a lot of times I'll use I have a plexiglass clamping caul, with two thumb wheels on the ends to pin the wings down. And I'll usually put a couple bolts through the outside holes and pinch everything down. Now I use plexiglass, that way I can see it. So basically this is what I'm talking about. This is something I made. So this piece would go inside. The two bolts would go through the holes in the bridge, and then you got the two thumb wheels, which I put, a piece of padding on, and that way I can push the wingtips of the bridge down as well as clamp it solid. And the plexiglass is nice because you can see what you're doing, and these line the holes up for you. It's pretty slick. The problem is you can't get your hand in this guitar. At least I can't. I mean, that's not going to happen. So we're going to have to do it topside. So I'll probably use maybe some clamps or possibly just some go bars. I'll set this on the bench, and I have a shelf above the bench, and I'll just use go bars, which are basically sticks or fiberglass rods that you just kind of wedge in there, okay? And that'll pin the bridge right to the guitar. So in any case, like I said, we're not going to be able to use my little clamping call on here because of the diameter of the sound hole being so small. So I did want to share that with you, though. If you guys are doing this kind of stuff, that's a pretty handy tool to make. You don't have to use plexiglass. You could do it out of wood too, but I like the plexiglass, like I said, so you can see. All right, let's get this blank ripped down to the right thickness, and we'll cut it to the right length and start shaping the wingtips and whatnot, and we'll also get this stuff filled in. Okay, so I have what's left of the original bridge here. And basically what I'm doing is using that as a gauge, and I'm going to cut this probably 1/8 of an inch thicker than this. That way I can refine it. I'm going to have to probably refine some of the bottom because it does have a little bit of an arch to it. So I don't want to cut it just exactly. I feel that if I do that, I may end up sanding away, some of the height that I need. So I'm going to make it basically the same thickness here in the end, but I'm going to cut it just a little bit thicker. That way, I know I have enough to work with. Okay. I must say the old table saw was kind of gagging there a little bit on that one. Boy, that's some beautiful stuff. That really is. I mean, not a crack in that. I've had that piece of ebony for 20 years at least. I've got another stick of this that's pretty much the same dimensions, but it's about 3 feet long. Again, really pretty stuff. Alrighty, well, that's going to work. Again, this will be a little thinner when we're done. Put a piece of tape on the top side. We got a little chip on the end here, which isn't a big deal. We're going to, shape the wingtips, so that'll all disappear. But I wanted to put a mark on there of some sort with at least a piece of tape, so, in the heat of the moment, I don't sand on the wrong side. So anyways, we'll clean that up, and we're gonna have to put a little bit of a radius on the bottom here. It is kind of rounded, so we got to shape that and fit that by hand too, which isn't a big deal. It's just something that has to be done. Okay, well, we're off and running. Okay, so we're on the workbench here. I've got the old bridge lined up to the blank that we just cut. Now, I'm going to set this in just a little bit because the bridge is actually probably at least 1/4 of an inch longer than it needs to be purposely. That way, I can refine it. You never want to cut things right exactly, because once you get done sanding and doing all your stuff, it might not be the right length. So it's better to leave everything a little long, maybe a little wide, and a little tall. That way, once you get done sanding and doing all your finish work, you have enough material there, I should say. Okay, so what we're going to do is just set that in a little bit. I'm going to make a pencil mark right here, basically where the wing comes back up to full thickness, okay? And I'm going to make another mark right about here, okay? Now what that mark is for is to tell me that this is the same thickness until it gets to that point, and that's where it kind of curves up and comes back to full thickness here. So we're going to do that just so we have some reference marks, and I know we're going to sand those away, but you got to have something to go by. So we're going to just set that one in a little bit. Same thing. We'll make a mark there and one roughly about right there. Okay. Now that will get us some reference points, like I said, for the wingtips, so we can get those shaped out. And then what's left will be, getting the bridge pin holes in place, marked out, get those drilled out as well. And then we'll figure out what we're going to do for a saddle eventually. Again, I haven't really made my mind up, so I think what we'll do now is just work on the shaping. We'll get this sanded. I'll also sand a radius into the bottom of the bridge, so it will fit down onto the guitar properly, and we won't have nothing wobbling around. You don't want to depend on a space with just a bunch of glue under it. It really needs to fit, properly. If not, then, failure is probably going to be inevitable. So, in any case, that'll get us started, and again, that'll give me some sort of a reference on the wingtips and how far to come in, okay? So, let's get to that. Something else that we need to take into consideration here is the thickness of the wingtips out on the ends. Now you can see that that's a different thickness, okay? I don't have the other end of it, so we're just going to kind of go by what we have, and I'll probably make it, somewhere in between these two thicknesses, thereabouts. Okay, over to the drill press here. And what we got going is just a sanding drum in the drill press. I've got the table right down as tight as up to the bottom of it, I should say. It's almost the same thickness or width as the bridge. I might have to do a little bit of hand work here, but this will get me in the ballpark. And it's something that I can kind of hold, square and flat to get that profile. I think what I will do is transfer this mark where the end of the wingtip comes in onto the back side, so that way I also have another reference here on the back side that I can have a visual on. Okay, we're getting there. A little bit of a slow process. Now I'll just keep nipping these little edges off. Okay, so, you know, it just takes time, and you got to keep checking as you go. Make sure you're not taking too much away. Okay, well, we're starting to get something that looks like a wingtip here. Again, I'll clean these little nubs off and the little spots where the sanding drum didn't touch. But we're starting to get down close to the right thickness. We've got a little ways to go. That's basically the gist of it. Now, honestly, it's all about timing and pressure. You know, if you want to dig out more, you got to stay there in that spot just a little longer. Now, another thing I'd like to add, you can see all this ebony dust on the drill press here. And there's a good pile of it. I also wanted to add it smells pretty darn nice too. Anyway, you know, if you're going to be doing this stuff, I know you repair guys and luthiers all can attest to this. You want to save this stuff. This is like gold sometimes when you need to fill in a little spot on a fretboard or a bridge. You know, you can't just pull this stuff out of the air. So I try to collect all this dust and label it rosewood, ebony, ironwood, you know, maple. And that way I have some kicking around in case I need a little bit. And I have definitely used this stuff more than once. I can just tell you that. When you need some and you don't have any, you know, you see the story and the whole picture here. So anyway, I'm going to bag this up and save it. All right. Take my Ziploc bag here and boom. And I'll continue to save this as I, you know, sand the other side out too. That's a pretty good bag. I don't know what that goes for on the streets, but it's not for sale, folks. All right, well, it's starting to look like a bridge. And again, I got a nice pile of ebony dust here. We'll bag that up. And, you know, I wanted to add, I will refine some of this with a round file, too. I won't do it all with the drill press here, just in fear of going too far. I'll get it pretty close, and then I'll kind of refine things from there. All right, so I just wanted to add one more thing, folks. You know, you don't have to do it like this. I've made these totally by hand with nothing but wood rasps and files and whatnot. If you want to take that slow pace, that's fine. If you like working with your hands and kind of sneaking in there to get it to fit right, that's always fun too. You know, don't make it just a laborious project. Have fun doing it. Take your time and enjoy the journey. All right, well, we're looking a lot better. We've got something that looks like a bridge now, like I said, and I'm going to do some hand work to refine it. I'll probably do the radius by hand too, and you know, make that fit perfectly. I'll show you how I'm going to do it. Usually I just put a piece of sandpaper on the guitar and, you know, either double stick tape it there or whatnot, and then, you know, lot of back and forth with the bridge in that spot on the sandpaper, and that will sand that radius into the bottom side of it. Okay, now we're going to fill these holes in. I'm going to put a little bit of super glue in here, about like that, and then we're going to take a little bit of this magic dust here. I'm going to sprinkle a little of that right on there. Just let it kind of do its thing. Wipe off what we don't need. And we'll let that sit for a second. Clean that all off. Okay. I'm just going to kind of pack that in there a little bit. Now, it's okay that it ran out into the hole. I kind of want it to anyway. That way I can, have something solid around the edge of the hole. We're going to do the same thing to the rest of them here. Just another little shot of glue. There is a little crack there, so I want to hit that too. And some more dust. Now what the dust does, it's basically just reinforcing the glue, almost like, concrete or something. You don't want concrete with no rocks in it, because it's not going to have any strength to it. All right, we're going to hit these two here next. A little bit of glue on both. I'm using Gluology super glue here. That is my all-time favorite super glue as of recently. I just stumbled onto it and got a good buy on it, so I picked some up just to try it, and really good stuff. Works good with wood, which a lot of super glue doesn't. So again, we'll just blow off the excess here and keep filling in. I'm going to put a little bit on this one too, I think. All right. Now you can use anything you want. You could use wood filler, anything, but in this case I'm using the dust that we just manufactured from sanding the wingtips down. Now I'm just going to blow that off just like that, and there you go. That will fill that hole right in nicely. All right, maybe a little bit more on this one, and I think we'll call it good. Then I'll sand these off, make sure they're not sticking up here where we filled, and then we can drill the holes out and get those located, transfer that onto the new bridge, get those drilled out, and then I'll work on the rest of it, as far as refining the bottom. I really should probably get the bottom set first. That way when we line the holes up, they'll be correct. My fear is if it's not matched to the top here, the holes could be off slightly. It probably wouldn't make a difference. I am going to ream these with a tapered reamer through the bridge and everything. So, but just to try to be accurate, I think that's what I'll do. Alright, so just a little light sanding here to kind of even everything back out, level everything off. A little bit of a bump right there, which isn't a big deal. Just take your time. Like I said, this has got to be right, though. It can't be just close enough or anything like that. You don't want anything sticking up under the bridge here, because you'll never get it pinned down to the top correctly, and that's really important. That needs to really make good contact with the top of the guitar in hopes that it'll stay there for a lot longer. Okay, that feels pretty decent. Now I'm going to roll my sandpaper this way. I don't want to be having my sandpaper go out over the guitar and scratch that nice graphic. That's really the money as far as these little guitars go. It's more about this visual and the graphic. Okay, now right there it's got a little low spot, so I'll probably put some more glue in there and a little more dust just to be sure. Okay, so you can see the holes that weren't blown out here, and I think we should fill the rest of this in a little bit more, honestly, just to be safe. I know we have a bridge pad under there, but I don't want any voids there, okay? Another thing, you're going to have glue that's going to drool down in the holes, and it could be a little bit funky, but it just takes a second with super glue and a little dust, and that is hard as a rock right there. It's probably a lot more dense than the actual wood I glued it to, but that's okay. It's all about just filling that in and getting that void filled up. So let's put a little more dust in, a little more glue, and close these holes up a little bit more, just those 3. Okay, I think I can live with that. Looking pretty good. And I didn't get any super glue on the guitar. That's always a plus. So what I'll do probably next is let that dry and sand that out. And then I can get these holes drilled through the bridge plate. And I'm just going to drill them to that diameter, basically. Even a little small is okay. As long as I have enough to get my tapered reamer in through after we get the bridge on, we'll be in good shape. And that just assures me that that's going to remain solid. It actually probably reinforced it a little bit even, so I'm good with that right there. Now, upon closer inspection, if you look real close, these factory holes are not lined up that well. They really are kind of sketchy. So I'm going to have to kind of make a few adjustments when I'm lining this up. And I'm going to have to kind of keep that in mind. It's not a big deal. As long as I have the spacing correct on my bridge, and you can see through the hole and whatnot, the reamer will kind of straighten things out as we go along. So it is something to keep in mind, though, working on vintage guitars and whatnot. The stuff that you don't see underneath is not always precision work. Let's just say that. A lot of times it can be, kind of wonky like this. It's not a big deal. We'll just have to deal with it. Again, it's just stuff that you kind of stumble onto as you do this after a while, and you start looking for these kind of things. Okay, so I better clarify this quick before people start calling me a hack and whatnot. Now, when I was sanding this here, right, it looked like the sandpaper was almost rubbing on the top of the guitar. And as you can see, that it didn't. Now, I thought this would be a good thing to add. This is something that you should always do. And this is what was happening. I had my pinky holding the edge of the sandpaper up slightly. So it looks like it's, it looks like I'm hitting the tops, like a magic trick, I guess, an illusion for sure. So that's, exaggerated. It looks like this. Always, keep that pinky there. So that way, if you aren't paying attention, you're not sanding into the top of the instrument or wherever you're sanding, okay? Wanted to clarify that so nobody jumped all over me. Okay, I got a little more sanding on these, but let's check how the alignment is on the holes here. That's the back of the old holes right here. Well, take your pick, I guess. I think I'm going to line up on these ones. I think that's the best thing I can do. Now, I don't know if the bridge was turned or not, but it wouldn't matter because no matter if you turned this or not, those are definitely not lined up. I think I'm going to go with these ones. That's probably my best bet. You run into this stuff occasionally. I've never really seen it that pronounced or drastic, but I'll adjust the saddle and try to line the holes up. I think what I'm going to do actually is take a measurement from the straightest part of the body here up to these bridge pin holes and just see if they are somewhat in line with that, you know. And it's going to be tricky too, because these are not always that square. They can be a roundness to them. Yeah, so what I'll have to do is find where this straight edge hits completely flat on the guitar. I'll put a piece of tape on each side of it, and that way I will have some sort of a guesstimate, if you will. You know, you got to check this stuff all out, especially when you run into this kind of thing, because, you know, what do you do? If you put that on and line everything up to these holes, obviously it could be off. These ones look to be the closest as far as alignment, so I'm going to have to take a shot on those, I guess, and just hope for the best. You know, if you put it one way or the other too far, then it's going to be tricky to intonate it. I wanted to add on the original bridge. As you can see, there's not a lot of distance in between the bridge pin hole and the back of the bridge, so again, this stuff really matters. Okay, just going to demonstrate some other procedures that I'll use. I'll take this half round file and actually work my way back to the line that I had marked, you know, for the distance of the wingtip. And I'm just going to take that in by hand like this. Now, I'd put this on the bench normally to do it, so I can keep everything flat and straight, but I'm just trying to demonstrate the technique here. This file also works good for putting some of the belly in the bridge wingtips as well. So, you know, I'll use it for different things, and I'll use different sized files and whatnot, even small like chainsaw files. And I do have some more half round. I have some fully round ones too, you know, stuff like this. I use these a lot as well. You know, whatever works. And it's good to have a little selection and a little choice in files and stuff. You know, you just kind of accumulate them as you go, and they all come in handy, that's for sure. Well, just to break the boredom up a little bit, this is the Explorer Destroyer that I built here, and I've been kind of tinkering on here and there. I just got stuff kind of mocked up here, checking the alignment before I commit to, you know, locating all this stuff. Still need to mount the tailpiece. The bridge is all hooked in. I got the anchors all installed into the body, and the adjustable bridge is all lined up nice. So we're getting close. Like I said, I'm just tinkering here and there when I get spare time, just, you know, 15-20 minutes a day if I can, and it's enough to make progress. It's slow, but that's okay too. I did put some amber shellac on the neck too. I did the back as well, then sanded it with some fine sandpaper, and that filled the grain in one coat. And when I sanded it, you know, back smooth, it feels like satin already. I'm going to do another coat, and I'm not sure about the headstock. It's got some really cool curl in it. I hate to put a black thing on there or paint it black, but I don't know, that kind of is the vibe on those, so we'll see. The back of the headstock shows it too, so pretty cool. I am getting excited to finish this one up, and I got a couple wiring jobs to do, so I'm going to tackle that very soon as well. But it's coming along, you know. 15-20 minutes a day can be a fun little project just to get out of the monotony for a little bit every day, and you know, the rest of the time you're thinking about your next step. So it's kind of always on your mind, and really fun. Just take your time and have fun with it. Okie doke, giddy up. Back to the Lone Ranger. Alright, I'm just finding the right drill bit here. I'm going to drill these holes out. And first thing I need to do, though, is make some sort of a mark here. And, you know, this is kind of sketchy. After I measured it, I think I'm going to go with the 2 outside holes, make a line, and see what it looks like. I may have to actually plug some of these and re-drill just so I can get something to line up here. Alright, so if I go to the back of both outside holes, both E strings, roughly, you can see that the other holes kind of disappear. So you can also see, though, the distance between where the bridge was is pretty close here. So what I think I'll do right there is make a reference mark across the back of them holes. Alright, and then I'm going to come up here and do the same thing on the top as best I can. And then we're going to try something right across the center of them. Alright, so that gives me 3 points of reference right there, which, sorry about that, folks. So, you know, I'm going to just have to go by that. And when I drill the holes, I may have to kind of manipulate the drill a little bit just to get that in line. But they're pretty handy, and I think that'll be fine. But they're not straight, that's for sure, and that's the way they made it. I'm not sure how they did it. They must have had, like, gang drills. Maybe they did it by hand, but, you know, the jig was off or something that day. It's just what it is. Okay. Alright, well, that went through nice. It might look like I'm off angle here, but the guitar is actually on a neck stand, so just wanted to add that too. Now I'm trying to just hold the drill almost like you don't want it to go through, that kind of light pressure. There you go. So I don't blow the bridge pad out. Unfortunately, there's no way to back it, but that's nice and clean, so I think we're going to be fine. Okay, well, we got them all drilled out. It's hard to really reference it with all this fill in around the holes, but everything looks pretty straight there, and I'll be able to transfer off onto the bridge and make my marks. And I'll probably use some dividers too, just to check them, make sure they're spaced right. It looks pretty decent. Alright, so we're taking the old bridge here, we're setting it up to the blank that I've made, and I'm checking the thickness right now. Now I've also taken a straight edge here, set it on the nut of the guitar and also on the new bridge blank, and I've checked the gap here under the, you know, where the string will be out on the end of the fretboard. It's a little tall still, so I need to get the thickness down, so I'll show you a little technique that I use to do it. Okay, so what we're going to do is take this wood rasp. I recommend getting one of these. This is a pretty good size rasp. Let's just take a quick measurement here. It's, let's see, about an inch and 5/8, almost an inch and 3/4 wide. And it's about tip to tip, we're talking almost 17 inches. Anyway, it has a pretty coarse side here on one side. The other side's not as coarse, but This is something that you can do right here, and this is what I just did. So something I just stumbled onto by accident, but I just kind of put the end of the tang against my leg, and it doesn't take a lot of pressure. And I've got this sitting on a towel, which kind of locks it in, and it doesn't want to slide around. And I just simply apply some pressure, go back and forth, bunch of strokes, and then I'll kind of count the strokes and spin it around, do the same thing. The reason I spin it around because you may be putting more pressure on one side or the other, and I mean it's almost shiny, it's so smooth, but that's a good little technique, and it'll surprise you how fast that will go down. That'll shave that stuff down really quick, so you got to pay attention, and it's pretty simple. Doesn't make a lot of dust in the air and whatnot, and it's quiet. So here's another trick on the wingtips. I'll take a round file like this, okay, and I'll simply set the bridge on the file. I'll set that file on that towel. Now you can just hold it with one hand, or you can put it against your leg, whatever you want to do. And now using that round file on a flat surface like that, if you keep that, kind of equal pressure, that will that'll clean those wingtips up really nice. The other thing, you can tilt the bridge on an angle like this and concentrate just on the tip itself, which is really handy too. And you can slightly kind of roll that back down and get a nice clean wingtip. Now I'll sand that out with a little sandpaper too, but I've made some lines, and as you can see, this one's starting to get nice and straight. This one I need to do a little work on. I haven't done that side yet, but I thought I'd share these quick little hacks, and you don't have to have power tools to achieve this stuff, and it really goes quick. Like I said, it's not like it's going to slow you down a ton, and it does kind of slow you down a bit, but versus power tools, but in a good way, I should say, because you really need to be accurate with this, and it's all about that visual. The first time you look at that, if one of those wingtips are crooked, the thickness is off, you're going to pick up on it instantly. So, again, I thought I'd just kind of share that. Now, I'm getting this all shaped up, and I'm going to get the right thickness before I drill it and make sure it sits on the guitar well. In a lot of cases, you want that to just sit absolutely perfect on the top. Now, in this case, I'm going to leave the center a little high, and that way, when I pin this down, I can pin that right flat with very little pressure right now, which is just about right, because what it's actually going to do is kind of flatten a few of these ripples out behind the bridge too as I pin that down, and that's going to be a benefit as well. Now keep in mind, when I do that, the height of the strings are going to change here too, so I may have to refine this a little bit more after I get it glued on even, but I'm going to try to factor in how much that's going to push down, and this is all stuff you got to pay attention to. So again, taking your time and going slow is really important, and hopefully this helps. Now again, I'm going to get that all sanded and pretty much finished, drill my holes, and get this glued on, and should be pretty much ready to go. I will cut a saddle slot in there too prior to gluing it on the guitar. I do need to lay that out as well, which I think the best way to do it is to take this old bridge here, and I can see just the very slightest remnants of the saddle slot. So, I'll have to measure that and kind of set that accordingly, figure out what the scale length is on this thing too. I may even try to look that up. But in any case, once I figure that out, I'll set that distance, make some marks, and I'm going to move this one back slightly just for intonation reasons. A lot of times they just put them in there straight, which, obviously that's not going to intonate well. So, like 1/8 of an inch in that area. I mean, I'm going to kind of guesstimate this, but that's just the way it goes. So I'll have to establish that in the new bridge as well, like I said. And once that's done, we should be good to go. Now, I do need to narrow this up slightly too. I really don't want to cut this paint out for the glue, so I'm going to make this thing fit right and have it sit right in that original footprint. That's really important. So I've got some more handwork to do, and again, to make this narrow, I'm going to use this wood rasp here and narrow this up. I would say within 10 minutes, if that, taking my time, I can shrink that up to the right width there, just using this rasp. So again, these are just some little tricks, and I don't know if they're tricks or hacks. It's just the way I do things, and sometimes I stumble onto these little things just by accident, and I don't share a lot of that, but I thought this was a pretty good little hack. So again, hopefully that's useful. All right, one last little tip here before I go. This is getting a little bit of length to this video, so I don't want to bore you guys too much, and I'm going to probably put a pin in it for another day or so and kind of dabble when I can. Anyway, let's say you need to make a radius underneath the bridge here. Now, you can also do it with a wood rasp like this. Just hold it down flat, not a ton of pressure. And I'm just kind of staying in between the lines here where the wingtips start. Just a little bit here and there, and just keep checking it. Take a peek at it, set it on the guitar, make sure it's not teeter-tottering and all that. So, there's another way to do that. Now, you can do it with a sander. There's a lot of ways to get there, but that works quite well. You could use a round file or a half round like this one, like I used on the tips even, to get some sort of a radius or an arc in there. Anyway, folks, thanks a lot for watching. I really do appreciate it. The next segment on this one will be, drilling the holes, gluing this on, getting the saddle slot cut, and I'm also going to make a saddle for this out of white-tailed deer antler, and we'll get the bridge mounted to the guitar, and the only other thing I need to do is find a post and a gear for one of the tuners, but I'm scouring the globe looking for one. So again, I need to get this thinned down just slightly and shrink it up a little bit, and we'll be good to go. It's going to look really nice. It's a really beautiful piece of wood here. Anyway, thanks again, folks. I do appreciate all the views and comments, and I just noticed actually yesterday that I'm over 2,000 subscribers. That's on you folks. You're the ones that subscribed, and I do appreciate it. I figured maybe 5 or 6 people may subscribe to the channel when I first started it. I never expected this, but I'm glad you guys get some enjoyment out of it, and hopefully some of this information will help you out along the way. We'll see you real soon. Be good. Okie doke. All right, one last little tip here before I go. This is getting a little bit of length to this video, so I don't want to bore you guys too much, and I'm going to probably put a pin in it for another day or so and kind of dabble when I can. Anyway, let's say you need to make a radius underneath the bridge here. Now you can also do it with a wood brasp like this. Just hold it down flat, not a ton of pressure. And I'm just kind of staying in between the lines here where the wingtips start. Just a little bit here and there, and just keep checking it. Take a peek at it, set it on the guitar, make sure it's not teeter-tottering and all that. So, there's another way to do that. Now, you can do it with a sander. There's a lot of ways to get there, but that works quite well. You could use a round file or a half round like this one, like I used on the tips even, to get some sort of a radius or an arc in there. Anyway, folks, thanks a lot for watching. I really do appreciate it. The next segment on this one will be, drilling the holes, gluing this on, getting the saddle slot cut, and I'm also going to make a saddle for this out of white-tailed deer antler, and we'll get the bridge mounted to the guitar, and the only other thing I need to do is find a post and a gear for one of the tuners, but I'm scouring the globe looking for one. So again, I need to get this thinned down just slightly and shrink it up a little bit, and we'll be good to go. It's going to look really nice. It's a really beautiful piece of wood here. Anyway, thanks again, folks. I do appreciate all the views and comments. And I just noticed, actually, yesterday that I'm over 2,000 subscribers. That's on you, folks. You're the ones that subscribed, and I do appreciate it. I figured maybe 5 or 6 people may subscribe to the channel when I first started it. I never expected this, but I'm glad you guys get some enjoyment out of it, and hopefully some of this information will help you out along the way. We'll see you real soon. Be good. Okie doke.